What's up, everyone? Thralls, Belle here once again. I'm the Croc Nick, and I have an album review for you. This one is brought to us courtesy of Screaming Toilet. Now, I know it's been a while since we've done something with them. Courtesy of the COVID outbreak, things have been kind of difficult for us to get stuff from them, and a lot of that stuff was kind of put on hold for us, but we are going to get back to this stuff so we can cover some more underground releases. Once again, I urge you guys to check out the site. There'll be a link in the description below, screamingtoilet.com. Lots of cool reviews on movies, different pop culture aspects, podcasts, and of course our music reviews as well, and some other stuff too. Definitely go check it out. So today I am reviewing a compilation. That's the first time I've ever reviewed a compilation on here in terms of like a flat out review. Women of Doom. Now this is a joint release between Desert Records and Blues Funeral Recordings, and this is pretty much a showcase of female-fronted doom bands or pretty much female-fronted stoner rock bands. It's kind of all in that little wheelhouse there. And features a number of notable acts, namely Frail, Minnie Parsons, who is the frontwoman and bassist of Royal Thunder, which I've seen live before and they were incredible. Doomstress, which was the first album I ever reviewed for Screaming Toilet, and Heavy Temple, which is a band that I've heard about and finally got a chance to listen to, which was really cool. There's a lot of other stuff on here as well, so what I'm going to do is actually a track by track here, since I think that's the only way to really go about a compilation review, because I want to give each band like a fair shake and a little bit of information about each one. So the album kicks off with a song by Heavy Temple, Astral Hand. This is a doom metal band from Philadelphia, and it is an all-female band, so not just a frontwoman or anything like that. This was one of my favorites on here. This is very heavy, sludgy doom metal. Really nice thumping bass line. And I gotta say, when the main riff comes in, it kind of reminds me of like a real doom metal Slayer. It's kind of dark and foreboding, kind of like the stuff you would hear on like South of Heaven. This song is a really good balance of gritty doom metal or stoner metal like Sleep, and then epic doom metal like Candlemass. In fact, the chorus on this song is very reminiscent of Candlemass, right down to the vocal cadence. And the vocals on this are absolutely amazing. Like, she does a really good job. There's a nice gruffness to her voice that just kind of really fits with how sludgy this music is. Excellent start to this album. The next track is from Amy Tan Berrysmith. It's called Broken, and she is the bassist and frontwoman for Year of the Cobra. It's a band I've heard of before, but I've never actually sat down and jammed them. And I don't think this is necessarily like the best example of what the band sounds like. I don't know. I mean, if this was more of a doom metal band, then maybe not, because this song is more vocally driven and driven by synths and mood and atmosphere. It really doesn't get heavy. The vocals are really good, and I like the fact that this has kind of a horror atmosphere. Like, it really reminds me of like bits of the score to Phantasm or Halloween. It has kind of that John Carpenter vibe, and I love that sort of shit. And again, the vocals really fit in with the whole mood of this song. They're very haunting, and I like when they bring in the harmonies too. Really good track, but I was kind of expecting something more traditional doom. But this was a cool kind of different approach to very doom-laden music. The next track is by Besvar Jeltsin. I think that's how you say it. It's Swedish for Conjuring. I probably butchered it, just like I butchered every foreign pronunciation on this channel. The song is called A Curse to Be Broken, and I actually have heard the frontwoman before. She was on Domcraft's last album, which I reviewed for Screaming Toilet as well, which they were really good sludgy atmospheric doom band. And that's kind of what this band sounds like as well. It's very atmospheric. Actually, it's fiercely layered in terms of like big soundscapes with the guitars and the vocals. It kind of has this layer of like post-metal ambience to it, and I really got into it. It really reminded me a lot of Huntsman, which I've been jamming a lot here lately because that new album's killer. Very riff-driven, very sorrowful vocals. It closes in a giant epic fashion with an immensely heavy riff. Definitely one of my favorites on here, and this is a band I definitely could see myself getting into as soon as I find some material of theirs. Next we have Minnie Parsons and her song A Skeleton is Born. Now, this isn't her in Royal Thunder. This is her doing her own little solo project here, and it's all acoustic, except for some keys and synths and some ambience in the background. And honestly, it is my favorite track on here. And what really sells it is her absolutely amazing vocal performance. Now, I've seen her in Royal Thunder before when they opened up for Enslaved and Pallbearer years ago, and she absolutely kills it live with her vocals, and this is a really cool, like, raw performance from her. It just sounds like one of those performances where the artist is bearing their soul. Like, it is very dark, it's very emotionally driven, like, there's a lot of heart behind it, and I love her delivery. She has such a wonderful range, and there's a gruffness to it that I absolutely love. And this song is kind of like a half ballad, half dirge. I think it's mostly dirge, though, just because of the feel of it. I feel like she's really channeling Johnny Cash in this, and one of his more dark moments, which that was a lot of his moments. Excellent song. This is my favorite one on the compilation, and I'm definitely going to go back to this one a lot because it's just amazing. Next we have Frail with their song Maro. Now, I had a chance to see Frail at the Ohio Doomed and Stone Fest that I went to last year, and unfortunately, just due to time constraints and lack of sleep, I didn't get a chance to see them. And I kind of regret it because after hearing this track, I really got into their overall sound. They are from Cleveland, Ohio, which is awesome because they're from my home state. And they're very atmospheric doom, and it's a real interesting sound. It's very well produced. The guitars are heavier than hell, and they really labor the atmosphere, but it really doesn't come across as like gothic. It still kind of stays just very kind of like St. Vitus, like doom. But the real interesting thing are the vocals and how they're delivered. They're almost kind of whispered and breathy, and they really never change, at least on this song. I haven't jammed in their full lengths, and it really just kind of adds like an interesting atmosphere to the song itself. It starts off with a cool tribal rhythm, and when the song kicks into full gear, it just hits harder than hell. Like, it is probably the heaviest track on here in terms of the overall giant sound of the production. And I like how when the giant part of the song comes in, the vocals also get more layered, and there's some synths in the background. It just becomes a much bigger song all around. Really, really cool song. I definitely regret not seeing them, but hopefully they come around here again when concerts are a thing again, and hopefully that's soon, because I'm losing my fucking mind. Next we have the Autolifts with their song Bone Dust. Now this band is comprised of former members of Sub Rosa, which unfortunately I'm not really familiar with. I've heard a lot about them. They were a female-fronted doom band, I believe, and they recently split up. And this also features current members of bands that are actually on here, or at least represented on this compilation, with Royal Thunder, Year of the Cobra, and Heavy Temple. Now this is an interesting structured song. It starts off with kind of a cool bass line, and then you hear violins being plucked, which I assume that's what it was. It sounds very distinct, and then you hear strummed violins. And this really goes on for the bulk of the song, and then it breaks into almost like a Neurosis level of layered, dense heaviness. And then the vocals come in, and they're actually very operatic to a degree. They kind of have like a gothic quality to it, but it kind of ends with that part, and a good chunk of it was spent building up, and honestly this feels like kind of a long teaser track, like a long intro track that's supposed to set the mood for the next track. So it's really kind of hard to judge what this band's overall sound is in terms of, you know, what their full length would sound like. I'm not familiar with Sub Rosa either, so it's kind of hard for me to judge, but I just feel like it was a long intro, though it was good, and I like the use of different instruments in there that aren't necessarily just straightforward doom metal things. But it kind of left me wanting more, and that's both good and bad. But overall, I dug it. Next we have Doomstress Alexis, and her song Facade. Now, this isn't Doomstress the band, which was another band that yet again I missed at the Ohio Doom and Stone Fest, but I think just a solo project that she did, and then had some other guest or session musicians come in. This is an odd song, and unfortunately it's my least favorite one. It really feels very slapped together. Now this song includes violins, and I think even an accordion here, but it's how they're applied, and this song is just kind of all over the place. Like, it feels like it's trying to go for a folky vibe, or like a classic epic doom vibe, but it never really kind of gets epic. And unfortunately, the vocals sound like they're off-key in some spots, and that's just kind of a thing that drives me nuts, because the melodies aren't mashing together. And that sucks because I liked Doomstra's album. I thought it was really good. I thought it was produced a little unevenly. I think that was my main gripe on it. But I thought the overall classic Doom, the St. Vitus worship on it was really cool. This really doesn't echo that. It feels more experimental and maybe a little directionless. But I can see like she wanted to push herself musically on this one because this is definitely nothing like anything on Doomstra's album. I just really couldn't get into it. There really wasn't a solid hook there for me. It's unfortunate. Next we had Belle with their song Cold Claw. Now this is a French doom metal band, and these guys really embrace the gothic side. The female-fronted vocals on this are exceptional. They're a little bit further back in the mix because they seem to favor more of just the full sound, everything kind of on equal levels. Maybe the guitar's a little bit more out front, but the Hammond organ sound on here really works well with this song. It gives it that real big gothic quality. And they even use some gothic choirs to back up the vocalist, which has a really cool effect. Like this kind of has like that 70s horror film kind of feel to it. I really got into this track, and this is definitely a band I want to check out again. And then the last track is a little bit of a head scratcher. It's from a band called The Keening, and the song is A Shadow Covers Your Face. This song is pretty much entirely piano driven. It is more of like a sort of depressive sonnet, and I guess it features, again, ex-members of Sub Rosa, which, again, I don't know much about, but this is, I don't know if you really call it doom. I know you definitely wouldn't call it doom metal because there's really no metal aspects on here. It's more of just this depressive sonnet, which is pretty, but I think it's a little long-winded, and I kind of wanted something bigger to close this compilation because it opened incredibly strong. I kind of just want to see that sort of energy bookended. But so this was a really cool idea. And I really like the majority of this compilation. Again, especially Minnie Parsons, her voice is absolutely incredible. But there are some bands in here that I discovered that I really liked. And I would go see a fair amount of these bands live just because I really dug the overall sound. So I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. I think if you're a Doom fan, definitely check it out. And if you just like sort of depressive music that isn't necessarily that metal, definitely check it out as well. There were some moments that kind of took me out of it as far as it being not necessarily that heavy, but still well done. But overall, I really enjoyed this compilation, and I'd like to jam it again. So if you like the review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do shit like this all the time. Catch you guys later.